Hello there friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. Okay, so episode 6 was phenomenal. It blended action with drama.
None of this was stored properly, it's all compressed.
Perhaps you've expanded? Pow!
And lost. I did everything I could. Celestial beauty in a way that we all knew only the Star Wars franchise was capable of. Let's go! But snap out of it, guys. That was not the season finale. Although it clearly was good enough to be the season finale, we still have 6 more episodes left in the rest of the season, and I think a lot of that is going to be centered around this.
I want every star sector and planetary emergency retaliation plan in the building ready for presentation by midnight.
The Empire's response. Essentially, the Empire is pissed about the stolen 80 million credits. We actually did 2 videos covering this. The first video was about what the rebels could buy with this money, and the second video talked about what the Empire was using this money for. Well, the heist represents an alarming setback for the local forces in the Aldani sector. The success of this heist also represents a far larger threat to the overall Empire. Those 80 million credits will go a lot further in the hands of insurgents than it will in the hands of the Empire. And if one group of Rebs can pull off a heist like this, well, there's no telling what kind of crazy movement can spring up and challenge the Empire. I mean, what if it wasn't just a few isolated rebels? What if it was an alliance of rebels, eh? And so now Major Partagaz, who is in control of the sector, is starting to freak out a bit. First you have the shootout on Ferrix, and now this crazy heist on Aldani. Remember guys, Partagaz is probably not the head of the ISB, he's only a major. There are probably several other majors like him who are assigned to other parts of the galaxy, and they all have their own supervisors who look at local sectors working beneath them. Just look at the Galactic Empire's crest, it's all about circles within circles. And if we know anything about the Empire, the higher you rise, the more responsibilities you take, the more painful it is going to be when you eventually mess up.
You fall here, you fall alone.
And yeah, Major Partagaz definitely kicked some people out of his way to get to where he was, so no one's going to be helping him if he screws this up. And so now with his career and potentially life on the line, Major Partagaz will have to kick his organization into high gear, and that's where Supervisor Deidre Romero comes back into focus. But before we get there, let me have a heart-to-heart with you guys. I mean, YouTube has been changing. It's been changing since the very beginning, but in the last few years, especially in the last few months, the algorithm has changed significantly. For the worse. Simply put, longer form videos, aka videos that are longer than 5 minutes, which honestly aren't that long, are no longer being given a lot of views. The algorithm now is favoring heavily shorts and clips, you know, like 1 to 3 minute kind of videos, vertical videos. In all honesty, I really hate that kind of stuff. I like the ramble. I like longer form content. But one must adapt or die. And YouTube is an extremely cutthroat industry. It's not as fun as it might seem. And so several years ago, I started a second channel called Generation Tech Shorts in anticipation of this nonsense. And more recently, we began uploading regular content onto that channel. Now, these aren't just like clickbaity rants or rambling ons. These are actually videos that I fully produce. They're just on ideas and concepts that I usually would not make because they're not long enough to make into a full video. So it's like Generation Tech, but short, hence the name. Very creative, right?
But the coup de grace is a little exercise that Luthen does for himself. Once and then twice. It doesn't really matter if the smile is fake or not. The physical memory of this activity allows him to relax into the new character he must now. So
now, even though it's getting harder to get views on our main channel, we're not gonna change anything here. We're gonna continue uploading on a regular schedule because I honestly love doing this a lot more. And this is thanks to the fact that we've been able to reach out independently to sponsors without, using Google, AdWords, or YouTube. I know a lot of you guys don't like seeing a lot of ads being done, but this is the only way we can stay independent and continue making the content we like in the way we like. It's also a way for us to keep our lights on and keep our anti-dolphin claymores activated in the walls. And if they do breach the perimeter, I recommend using one of these, the Cipher Blade. This is one of the more no-nonsense hilts offered by our sponsor for today, Ownersaber.com. Its design is generally favored by those who are dark side curious.
Do you have something, a cowl or something you can put on?
But its sturdy and light design makes it an excellent blade for beginners who want to learn how to duel. Especially when you pair it with the LGT RGB blade, which is designed to get smacked around very heavily. I've tried it. Durable enough to really whack. The hilt itself costs $129.99, and if you get it with the LGT RGB blade, it costs $179.99. And for a limited time, if you use our promo code PORG, that's all caps, you can get 20% off of your purchase at checkout. Look at the description down below if you want more information. And as usual, thank you so much for your patience. Seriously, on to the rest of the video. So let's talk Deidre Romero. She seems like a half-decent Imperial supervisor. She actually cares a lot about her underlings.
You should go. I didn't realize how late it was.
I'm staying if you are.
I used to work in the financial district in Manhattan, and during my terrible tenure in business consulting firms, not once did I hear any of my supervisors say that to me. So it's really surprising to see the ISB have this type of internal office culture. The ISB was not a normal intelligence gathering agency, mind you. It was directly connected to CompNor, which is the political organization that backs Emperor Palpatine's New Order political movement. And so for a bit of historical context here to make everything make more sense, CompNor is comparable to the Nazi Party, and the ISB is comparable to the Gestapo secret police. The ISB is full of Palpatine fanboys and fangirls. They are the ones who line up behind the Imperial Army troopers and shoot all of the people who retreat in the back of the head. So it's very shocking to see any kind of humanity in the ISB. It's also even more shocking to see Deidre Romero focus on actually doing her job and not climbing the ranks. In these type of political organizations, political maneuvering and backstabbing is very, very common and almost encouraged. In all honesty, I need to do a video about this, but the Sith mentality that Palpatine loves has ingrained itself at every level of the Imperial military and political structure, which is why this whole organization is completely nuts. So guys, if you don't remember, Supervisor Deidre Romero in the earlier episodes of this season pieced together what kind of looks like a conspiracy theory. She's basically connected a series of incidents together, and she believes that there's a larger rebellion movement brewing or fomenting.
There's fermenting out there, son. Pockets of fermenting.
That's literally one of my favorite lines from the series, by the way. Now, first it was the Imperial NS-9 Starpath unit that Andor just randomly stole from the Steer Guard Naval Yard. This device was an incredibly powerful piece of tech and capable of detecting and mapping out every Imperial starship and installation within 9 radial parsecs.
Surprise, motherfucker.
It's basically the kill streak in COD where you get the mini-map revealed, or if you're a little less twitchy and more refined, it's the motion sensors in Battlefield. The theft of this device essentially allows rebels to freely move through an area and see where enemy ships are and enemy patrols are and avoid all detection. So you guys can see how valuable this thing is. And when that device was found during the Ferrix ambush,
a stolen Imperial Starpath unit was recovered at the scene.
Supervisor Romero suspected that something larger was brewing out there. Steer Guard was actually originally in her sector, that's why she's interested, by the way, and she's seeing the connection here. These clearly are not just bandits or thieves trying to make some money. Now, she faces opposition from both Major Partagaz and Supervisor Blevin when attempting to retrieve more information from the Ferrix incident. Miro never really gives up, although she does have moments of self-doubt.
I don't know what I'm doing. About any of it.
Yes, you do. You're onto something. Kessel. Fondor. Targeting consoles from Jakku, proton warheads from Base K, the Steer Guard Starpath.
See, that's why it's important to show care towards your underlings. Actually, don't even think of them as underlings. They're your coworkers, and if you lift them up in their time of need, they will lift you back up. And this is the type of office culture you want in an intelligence agency. You don't want people jealously guarding their, resources and intel from each other because they're afraid someone might, backstab them or rise above them. That is insanity.
Look at this.
That is really nice.
Eggshell with Romalian type. What do you think?
Nice.
And honestly, Blevin's behavior here is embarrassing. He reminds me of a child trying to report a fellow student to a headmaster. Major Partagaz seems like a very competent individual, but he basically brushes Deidre Romero aside when she requests to gain access to Supervisor Blevin's reports on the Ferrix situation.
People also take things for money, do they not? Is it worth creating this much intra-office friction in the pursuit of what seems like a straight-up case of a robbery gone awry?
In a way, it kind of reminds me of Chief Inspector Hine, a wise and old officer whose own limitations and past experiences have made him shy away from actually trying to do his job. And instead now he focuses on stability and peace and inter-office relationships as he counts his days towards his eventual retirement. But Miro pushes on anyway. She's clearly a very motivated, talented, and smart individual. But she kind of reminds me of Thrawn in her inability or just refusal to treat office politics as an important factor in getting what she wants. But clearly Major Powdergas here has already made his decision about what he wanted to do before the meeting even started, and so he just finds any excuse to dismiss her.
You came to us from enforcement.
Yes, sir.
Here, we act on vetted and verified information.
I like this little piece of information that Deidre Romero comes from enforcement, aka she was probably a beat cop or detective at one point in her career, sort of like another character, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Ultimately, there is no substitute for competence, though. Blevin will continue to selfishly guard what little he has because he clearly lacks the capability to do much more, and Deidre Romero will rise because she was on the right path all along. In a way, she knew all of those incidents would be connected before Andor even realized that he was a rebel. Her gut instincts were really good, and now the news about Aldhani is spreading everywhere across the galaxy, including to Coruscant, where all of the elites and important people are.
Got anything from Aldhani?
Excuse me?
Aldhani.
Big rebel attack last night, it's all the news.
So Major Powdergas will have no choice but to pay attention to Deidre Romero's theory, even if it means instability and longer work hours. So what happens next? Well, there's conveniently another individual on Coruscant who has his own story arc, which has been put on hold in the last few episodes, and that is the story of Deputy Inspector Cyril Karn.
Mother.
He is responsible for that disastrous action on Ferrix, and he was fired from his job directly by Supervisor Blevin after being debriefed. My belief is that Mira will eventually get that report she wants from Blevin, and she'll notice that Cyril Karn, the individual mentioned in that report, is now conveniently located on Coruscant, where she can gain access to him. So she'll call him in for an interview and see if she can get any more information on what the hell happened to him. I think Deidre Romero and Cyril Karn are actually kindred spirits. They are both deeply analytical people who are extremely passionate about doing their job. An unusual combination for sure, but the type combination usually makes for an excellent law officer. For those of you wondering, by the way, we also did an investigation on Generation Tech Shorts about Cyril Karn's sidekick, Lieutenant Linus Mosk, aka Sergeant Tactical Blueberry, and there are some very clear signs that he'll be back in a very unexpected way, though. If you guys like Mosk, we'll link all that stuff somewhere down below. Now, whether Miro speaks to Karn or not, she'll have information on one Cassian Andor from Blevin's report anyway. I think Luthen Rael will still be an unknown suspect at this point in time. Now, eventually Miro or other ISB agents will be able to talk to the garrison from the Aldhani outpost. Several of the Imperial Army troopers survived that incident, and at least a few of them will be able to identify Cassian Andor, especially when shown the holo that's already available. Cassian Andor's presence on Ferrix and Aldhani will prove that Deidre Romero's theory is correct. Knowing that Andor is from the world of Ferrix and the ISB already has a presence there, we might begin to see the hunt for Andor begin. At this point, my predictive powers, which actually comes from about 500 hamsters trapped in tiny little orbs connected to a Mac garbage can, is running thin, but I can kind of guess where this will all go. I think it's possible that Andor will get trapped on the planet of Ferrix. Maybe there'll be an Imperial blockade. Luthen Rael will send Vel and some other rebel operatives to help retrieve him or get him out, not just because they like Andor, but because he's clearly a very skilled operative and they might have another heist planned, maybe? Ultimately, Luthen Rael might even have to get involved somehow. His crazy Kyber-powered ships might be the only thing powerful enough to run an Imperial blockade. Either way, if episode 6 of Andor is just the mid-season climax, can you imagine what the finale for the first season is going to be? I am really excited. Anyway, I'll see you back next time. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit that notification button down below so you don't miss out on the rest of our awesome content. As usual, my name is Alan, reminding you that my allegiance is to the Republic, to democracy.